Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Killing Eve. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we'll just go ahead and break this episode down by section and, character by character. So first and foremost, we get Nico. He's in Poland. He's happy, kind of a new start and everything, still kind of ignoring Eve's text. I mean, we see that he's reading them at some point in time, but it is kind of like, hey, this is a fresh start. This is home for him. It's a good opportunity for him. And obviously, we see at the beginning someone took his phone. Immediately, my brain was like, was that Villanelle or was that someone else? I wasn't 100% sure. But like when you look at the camera, like it seems like it focuses on someone in the background. And I had to rewind. I was like, who was that? It's like you couldn't really make it out. But I was like, is that supposed to be Villanelle or something? And then like as he's being carried away by the crowd because everyone's celebrating, you see her go over there. I was like, his phone just got taken. And in the moment it goes into Eve's story, I was like, someone's texting you to set this whole thing up. But we do go to Eve's story. Eve is a hot mess. She's staying at the I don't what the job actually is. Jamie's workplace where Kenny worked and everything. She's staying there and she's kind of a hot mess and she keeps smelling something. She's like, is that me? Even later on, smelling her hair, she's just starting to, like she just looks like a hot mess. But to be fair, it's like, well, you have to stay there because Villanelle doesn't know where you live, despite the whole like you're kind of okay with that because you do kind of miss her in an effed up way. It's like, I don't really feel that sick because she could come after me at any point in time. So she's just chilling there at Bear's desk eating his cereal and and so I love him being like, you smell that? And she's like, I can't smell anything. I have another point. He's like, what's that? And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, what's that? And he looks down and like, I guess her panties, like either she didn't put them on all the way or maybe when I don't know. Maybe she's just so out of focus that it's just like somehow her panties are just stuffed in her pants. Like she pulled them out and just threw them in the trash. She's like, well, don't throw them away in there. But because the whole point was they were looking at that murder, the one that was done by Villanelle that was mimicked after Dasha, because like Eve kind of remembered the killing that was very similar to it, so she kind of gets Bear kind of looking into it, but then she gets to the delivery and I'm like, oh, at first they're like, oh, Eve, is your birthday? I was like, oh, it's not her birthday, it's her anniversary, isn't it? But it turns out to be her birthday and she's carrying it off by herself. I was like, oh, could you think it's something Eve left, that Villanelle left you? But she didn't. It's like, oh no, it totally was a Villanelle cake. I would assume so. And obviously it's this complicated thing where like Eve threw the cake, but there was also a part of her that even when she was throwing, she kind of wanted to grab it, like because she was kind of like caught up in it, like, and I think that's right there, that moment, that almost like throwing the cake but also wishing you hadn't thrown it, that is a complicated nature that is Eve, because there's a part of her that's like, oh, I hate you, Villanelle, but there's also this twisted part of her that is in love with Villanelle, and it's like even in that instant, that 1 second, something simple as that cake, it left her kind of torn, and even Jamie's like, oh, is that actually your birthday? And she's like, yeah, it actually is. But he's like, honestly, you can't be staying here. And she's like, I'm not staying here. She's like, okay, so I'll find somewhere else to stay. He's like, where? And offers her a place to stay. And it was kind of interesting, like back and forth that they really had, because for him, it's like, she kind of, beats down on herself so much about all the complicated stuff that's in her life, because she's basically considers herself very self-destructive, but the fact of the matter is Jamie kind of brings up the fact, it's like, well, I'm just kind of, your sins can't compare to mine. So it's like a back and forth of after everything that they've done. And the final thing from Jamie was really interesting, that basically he had a friend who died from the drugs that he gave, and Eve was about to talk, but then she was like, Jesus, really? So I think it's just like, it was on such a personal level like that. I mean, because I think she could almost like understand, because like her whole thing with Villanelle not only ruined her relationship. I mean, let's not forget, he killed one of your friends, and yet you had this like almost weirdly positive relationship with Villanelle. It's this complicated relationship you had. Let's not, because you started off wanting revenge. You've always fascinated with her. That's where it started. Then you wanted revenge, and then it was admiration, and it got murky along the way. So that was just all really interesting. But obviously Jamie is talking about the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, we all have choices. It's kind of like, it's almost kind of a thing of like, the choices you made, you can't do anything about it, but going forward, you do have choices, so you have to decide what you're going to do. And so as they're looking into, the murders that were committed, that murder that was committed by Dasha, that was very similar to Villanelle's most recently, like it was kind of, obviously Dasha's being an homage to hers. She was getting texts from because she had that back and forth with what she believed to be Nico when in actuality it wasn't. And so it turns into a thing of like, no, I need to kind of jump on this immediately. So she's like, like you said, we all have to make choices. And for her, it's like, I'm going to try and repair my relationship with Nico. So we see her roll up in Poland. She's kind of waving at Nico. She's like, hey, Nico. And Nico just kind of looks and waves at her. I was like, oh, this is going to get weird and complicated. It's like, how the hell is that going to play out? Next story we get is Constantine's. We see him in Moscow. He's looking at his daughter, Irina. That led to an interesting situation in itself, because the way he was talking to, well, I think it happened beforehand, or I might be telling everything out of order, but it was interesting because he wanted to see Irina. Like, apparently his ex has a new man in her life and everything, and he's talking to his daughter, and they have that like shit talking relationship that they do, but his daughter's kind of like, because he's like, oh, I do this and that, I work for the government. And she's like, it's bullshit. She's like, I know that you don't work for the government. The fact of the matter is, for her, at the end of the day, it's like, she already feels alone, but she feels like she's going to feel even more alone, because she's like, you're caught up in something that's going to get you're going to die because you don't have a plan. He's like, yes, I have a plan. She's like, no, you don't. And you're going to end up dying, and I'm going to be even more alone than I am right now. So his daughter is able to see through it. And I like that too, because it also proves like, yeah, Constantine's kind of flying by the seat of his pants, because I mean, look at this situation. He literally bounces from loyalty to loyalty. He's like, oh, I'm with the 12. I'm not with the 12. Caroline, I'm helping you. I'm not actually helping you. Villanelle, I'm helping you. I'm not actually helping you. Actually, I'm helping you because I'm still with the 12. Like, his loyalty's like all over the place, and he goes, he's like I said, he's like, he has no actual plan, which obviously is interesting, because when you tie this into like, he went to visit Charles' wife, because she talks about the fact is that he was looking into some missing money, and the moment that came out her mouth, I was like, so Charles wasn't the one that actually took the money. We kind of talk about that a little bit more later on, but it's like, oh, interesting. So all that time, I guess he was worried that because the money was missing, they would assume it was him. So maybe that's why he was in such a hurry. That's why he needed the money from Constantine to cover for it. But even then, that whole thing about like, because that look on Constantine's face when he finds out Villanelle's the one that pulled the trigger on Charles or whatever, then I'm like, so, because the episode made me start wondering, is like, did Constantine take the money? Was it supposed to be kind of like he does all this and he's trying to like get out of this? Like, is he trying to go on a run? Like, what is his plan? Like he said, he makes it seem like he has one, but his daughter was like, yeah, it's all going to eventually catch up to you. So he goes to see Villanelle, which then we get Villanelle's side of the story, where she's kind of excited. She's looking at the marks on her face, and she's like, you haven't gotten over me. Like, she's like, Eve is super still into me. So then Dasha shows up. She was cooking a cake, and she's like, oh, that actually doesn't look like that. She's like, shut up. And she's about to throw it away. But Dasha's like, hey, the fact of the matter is, just because it doesn't look good doesn't mean it doesn't taste good. She tastes it and just kind of like, nah, throw it away. And just like the look on Villanelle's face, like, fuck you. But it's interesting because even Dasha's trying to push Villanelle, because it's like, oh, I'm trying to help you out because you are literally your worst enemy, because everything you're doing, like, you want these plans of working with the 12 and everything like that, you want to advance, you want to grow, but in actuality, she's like, all you're doing is hurting yourself, because you're sitting here lying to me about who you're actually meeting with and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, who she met up with was Constantine, so, and obviously I'm sure she didn't say all the ins and outs about everything that happened with Eve last episode, but Dasha ends up saying like, oh no, they want to meet with you and stuff like that. I'm like, is that true? Or is that, I mean, it sounded like BS, like the way she was saying it. She's like, oh no, they want to meet with you, and what this means for you. They just want you to wait and stuff like that. It's like, I'm sure they told Dasha something else. I think Dasha's just telling Villanelle that so she'll just kind of stay calm and won't just be her normal erratic self. So that's interesting. Villanelle's actually kind of excited. She's like, kind of excited because like all this chance and opportunity is presented to her. She's going shopping, runs into Constantine, and I love that thing of like they're on that ride and she's jumping up and down. She's like, how much of this would be a really messed up way to die? He was like, stop that. Will you stop doing that? And she's like, oh, you're kind of in a bad mood. And even at one point, like she's mocking him, like mimicking like what he's about to say because she knows him so well. And then he's like, stop it. You know I hate when you do that. I love like this like weird playful relationship that they have. But basically it's about like, hey, I found out where who your parents or who your family is. I can find out where they are, but I need you to do something for me. And she started kind of having these hiccups, and he's like, what is it? And it's like, basically, he wants her to take care of Charles' wife. And it's actually kind of sad because, you know, she was like, the way she was talking, she was like, oh, look, I just lost Charles, 30 years in marriage. And Villanelle's like, but you're free now. She's like, I don't want to be free. I want to be a family. Oh, and it's like, oh, that's actually a sweet moment. And Villanelle's touching her. And then she has like the shears or whatever in her hand, and before she can do anything, she starts hiccuping, and Charles' wife is like, oh, and scares her, and she's like, ah, and it's like, I love that that's constantly like this bit about like scaring someone. I love that, like, that's a thing between Constantine and Villanelle, and now it's just kind of reflected in this as well. I was like, oh, did it work? And it's like, oh no, it didn't. She still has her hiccups, and then she tries it again. And it almost turns into this little playful thing where they're just like, chasing each other. It's like, oh, this is super adorable. It's like, are you actually not going to kill her now? But Villanelle, kills her anyway. I don't know if you can make the argument it was better, because even Constantine was like, make it, basically it was like, either make it painless and make it efficient. And she's like, well, what do you want me to do? Make it painless or make it efficient? You know, so... And I don't know if Villanelle kind of felt bad about that. And like I say, it's really hard to 100% read her, you know, what's on her mind. So I'm like, part of me is wondering, like, oh, did you kind of regret that because you actually kind of liked her and stuff like that in that moment? Or is it just kind of like, I did what Constantine wants. This is me getting closer to my family. So whatever price I have to pay, sure, whatever. So, like I said, because Constantine wanted her dead to cover up the fact is that she was asking, because like there's an attachment or something that she was supposed to send out, but she didn't, because she was like, I'm not familiar with the email address and stuff like that. So that makes me think, like, was it Constantine who took the money? Maybe he just didn't expect Villanelle to be the one, or maybe the fact of the matter is the fact is they killed Charles must have been like, oh crap, so my cover up did work, so me putting it all on Charles being the bad guy, like the one who took the money. I don't know. I kind of don't 100% know what to really, you know, make of that in a grand scheme of things. Next person on the list is Carolyn. You know, still, you know, acting like everything's okay with this whole, Kenny situation. And obviously she's meeting with, isn't her boss's name Paul? I feel like I'm blanking, but I want to say it is Paul, or was Paul like his ex? I want to say it's Paul. It's basically like, oh, like, you were kind of right, because like now he kind of has to take everything back, because it's like, well, she almost died and Charles ended up dying, but she ends up bringing up her theory of like, Charles, he had a whole bunch of debt. If he was really swimming in that $6 million we believed him to have taken, then why wouldn't he pay off his debts and stuff like that? Why would he still be in debt? So it's like he was being framed for it. And so it's kind of a thing of like, all right, he's like, Paul's like offering her job back and everything. And it's like, what do you need? And she's like, my office. And he's like, what? She's like, my office. That's what I need back first. He's like, but you don't even know where your office is. She's like, yeah, but it doesn't mean I don't need it. I was like, I love it because she's just so petty. It's just like he took her office and it's just like she doesn't even use it because she doesn't know where it is. And I love that. It was just like, no, I still need it. You don't use it. You don't know where it is. I don't care. I need it just so you don't have it. And she goes home, and her daughter Geraldine keeps pushing her about the whole thing of like, because Geraldine wants her to open up, and it's so interesting because your mom kind of like compartmentalizes and separates herself from her emotions to a certain extent, because that's how she does her job very effectively. And you know, it's even a thing because like as she was driving up, she saw Constantine, but then she was like, oh, what were you up to today? It's like, have you had any visitors or something like that? And Geraldine lies about Constantine. I guess Constantine wants to keep it a secret, and her mom doesn't pressure her too much because it's like, because obviously she's like, oh, I'm gonna go upstairs, and Geraldine breaks down because she's like, you won't even say Kenny's name. It's like, you won't have a conversation with him. And I love Carolyn being, what are you talking about? We just had that very in-depth conversation right now. I'm like, that's sad that you look at that as just like some conversation. Like your daughter wants like a heart-to-heart, but obviously it's just like, it doesn't compute with Caroline. You know, it's like, it makes you wonder, was she always that way, or did she become that way over the years just to, you know, like, be able to keep going, you know? But the fact of the matter is, you know, she's like, basically, don't judge me. Like, I'm doing way more for your brother than you'll even realize. She's like, then talk to me about it. It's basically like a, let me grieve in my own way. You have your way of grieving and you have your secrets, and I have my way of grieving and my secrets. So let's respect each other in that way. And when she gets into her room, she puts a pillow over her head, because I think in her way, that was her way to fight back the tears. Like, once again, she puts up this tough exterior, but even it's taking its toll on her. Like, it's still not an easy thing to lose one of your kids. Hell, even Eve was looking out the window at one point because, like, the cake being outside. I'm sure, well, I jumped to an immediate thought like, oh, it must be a reminder of Kenny, but at the same time, I think it's just kind of like it's more so a reminder of, I kind of wish I hadn't thrown that cake because of what it represents. Villanelle went through the trouble sending me that, and she wished me a happy birthday. So it's like once again, that complicated nature that is Eve. So there's that. But also we get Dasha's side of things, and she meets someone who I'm assuming I don't think they're middle management. Maybe they're from the 12 themselves, or maybe they're kind of like middle management, kind of like Constantine is. Whatever the case may be, they basically want her to reign Villanelle, and it's like, you need to get her back under control. It's like, no, Dasha's like, no, it's all under control. It's all good. It's like, is it really? We've seen reports of her kind of rolling around with the, the person with the agent with the, and it's like, oh, like turtleneck and stuff like that. And it's like, knowing exactly what this is all about. So obviously she's suggesting like, oh, you want me to, I can just kill Eve. But like, obviously the lady was like, no, because that'll turn into more issues. Like, find something that will cause a rift between Villanelle and Eve, and that will kind of settle things. Like, basically it's like, get Villanelle off of focusing on Eve. Like, she's distracted because of this whole Eve thing. Bring more turmoil to that, get her back on kind of doing her job, and just, things being what they need to be. So we find out that the person we saw in the background that time at the bar and everything, turns out it was Dasha. I mean, to be fair, she does her Villanelle, which is like, well, it's understandable where Villanelle got what she knows, because we see Dasha kind of representing that, kind of like pretending to be someone else, kind of injecting yourself into Nico's life and everything. I was like, that's what I was thinking, like, what is she trying to do? Is she trying to get Nico and Eve back together, and the issues that could cause Villanelle? Like, oh, like, I was curious what her whole plan was. But then at the end, we see what it is, because she puts a note up there. She's like, I still got it. I was like, what the hell does that mean? And then, like, she's waiting for Nico. I was like, is she about to attack Nico? I was like, no. Wait, where does this go? And then she stabs Nico, killing him, I'm assuming. Like, he's still alive nearing the end, but, like, she killed him. And it's like, right. So she's trying to frame it all on Villanelle, because that way it makes it seem like maybe Villanelle was the one who did it, but it was also kind of meant to be a sign for, I don't know whether that was supposed to be Dasha's little signature and wink and nod to Villanelle, like, oh, I still got it. Even after all these years, I can still execute a plan and execute an assassination and kill. Or maybe that's supposed to be like a wink and nod, making her believe that it was Villanelle. Like, whatever the case may be, it's like Eve was trying to repair things with Nico, and it's like, I was thinking maybe they'd have some weird, awkward interaction, but, and it's like, no. Like, and it's sad, because the last time they talked, I'm wondering if them in the first episode, is that actually the last time they've actually really talked? Since, because the next time they run into it, she goes check on him. Once again, she found out, oh, he's in Poland. So it's sad that those were the only words they had between each other, despite everything. And it's like, she had made a choice that she wanted to repair the relationship, but now she'll never have an opportunity. Like, so many people, because she worried about, like, obviously, like, people she cared about suffered because of this whole thing. And now, like, so many people in your life are gone now because of this whole thing. So it's like, that's rough. And then at very end, we see Villanelle kind of getting off like a train, and she's touching her throat. Like, I think for her, it's like she felt like something was off. And then as she's walking, it says home. So I guess like Constantine gave her the address. So maybe next episode we'll kind of dive deeper into like her background, like where she's really from and all that, like her family. Like, you've gone through all this for a family, yet being the way you are, like, I wonder, is she worried or scared that they won't accept her? I'm curious to see what happens when Villanelle does find her family. Is she too much the way she is for it to change her? Like, what does she actually expect? Like, will it fill some hole in her heart or whatever? But Villanelle's different from most people. She doesn't operate the same way other people do. So it makes you wonder, like, what kind of ending can there be? Could there be a happy ending? I don't think so. But, we'll ultimately have to wait and see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode, especially because of this whole Dasha thing. Like, Dasha's, like, they're on the verge of connecting Dasha and Villanelle. So it's like, if they follow Dasha, they can follow their way back to 12, and especially if Eve ends up finding out Dasha's the one behind this, and if Villanelle finds out, she'll probably kill Dasha. Because there was even that line from Constantine, was it the other episode that I brought up, I thought was interesting, was like, Constantine was like, weren't you going to kill her? And it's like, what was that about? You know, maybe it was something about, you know, Villanelle's upbringing and training, maybe just like the way Dasha treated her, something. It's like, you're working with her now, but like, didn't at one point in time you wanted to kill her? And I'm like, I want to know why she wanted to kill her, but maybe that's answers we'll get soon enough. But regardless, like I said, I'm very interested to see where all this ultimately ends up taking us. But really, that's all I want to talk about today. Next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.